The war room hummed with a low, electric growl, an omnipresent vibration that resonated through the cold, metal walls like the breath of the ship itself. Blue-lit consoles flickered, casting ghostly light across the cragged faces of the soldiers seated around the long obsidian table. These were not men, nor anything that would pass for men on Earth. Hulking forms wrapped in angular armor, their thick hides bristled with old scars and fresh enhancements. They were veterans of 100 wars, champions of crushed rebellions and star systems that no longer had names. At the center of the room sat Commander Gorvel, a brute even by the standards of the Grawl Dominion. His skin was a mottled shade of ochre, stretched taut over muscle and sinew like a living statue. The glowing orange nodes embedded in his chest plate pulsed steadily with biopower, syncopated with his breathing. Beside him, his closest lieutenants, Krask, Velan, and the ever-grinning Drak, slouched with practiced arrogance. They were awaiting orders, but protocol didn't demand silence. The war with the Terran Confederacy had taken a curious turn, not with weapons or defenses, but with something stranger, something comical, even. "Look at this," Drak growled, tapping the interface on his gauntlet. A glowing projection emerged, displaying an ancient Earth text. "Zeus, king of the gods, wielder of lightning bolts, huh? They feared clouds and turned them into deities." Krask snorted, his wide nostrils flaring. "Primitive minds. No wonder they fall so easily. Their ancestors probably bowed to the rain." Laughter rumbled through the chamber, low and derisive. Even Gorvel allowed a brief smirk. The aliens had recently gained access to the Terran's cultural archives, centuries of stories, myths, and legends distilled into digital form. It had become a sort of sport to sift through the relics of Earth's imagination. Velan called up another file. "Here's one. Gilgamesh, a man who challenged the gods and sought immortality. Sounds like a deluded berserker with a literary agent." More laughter. Drak leaned forward, eyes glinting. "And don't forget their messiahs. One man feeding thousands with bread and fish? Walking on water? Please. Even the Mari trick shamans wouldn't go that far." Krask folded his arms, his thick fingers drumming against the table. "It's not just foolishness. It's desperation. Species that create stories like this are compensating. They fear death so much they build fantasies around it. Their myths are more dangerous than their weapons," Velan added. "They make them believe they're special." The remark hung in the air a moment longer than expected. A deep metallic groan echoed from the hall beyond. The soldiers straightened. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, approached, each one a reverberation in the floor. Then the door irised open, and in stepped a figure who silenced the room without a word. General Threx. He was massive, even by Grawl standards, and he wore no helmet. His head was lined with bony ridges, and one eye had been replaced with a crimson lens that whirred softly as it adjusted to the light. His armor was old, battle-worn, its joints bearing the grime of 100 campaigns. Some claimed he had never lost a single encounter. Others said he had died once and simply refused to stay dead. He moved to the table without acknowledging their greetings. Sat down, rested one massive claw on the surface, and scanned the projections still hovering in the air. Human myths, fables, superstitions, more Terran nonsense. Threx asked, voice like crushed stone. The lieutenants hesitated. Drak offered a toothy grin. "Just studying the enemy's irrational sides, sir." Threx said nothing for a long moment. Then, without warning, he chuckled. A single, guttural sound that shocked the room. He leaned forward, tapping one of the files, the story of Prometheus. "They tell of a being who defied the gods to bring fire to humanity," Threx said. "For his defiance, he was chained to a rock, his flesh torn day after day by birds." "Ridiculous," Velan muttered. "Is it?" Threx's voice was quiet now, but sharper. "You mock it because you see only the imagery. But listen closer. A creature who gives everything, suffers endlessly, for the progress of another species? That's not stupidity. That's purpose." The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Gorvel sat straighter. Threx continued, eyes distant. "They believe in sacrifice, in redemption, in forces greater than themselves. Do you know why that matters?" No one answered. "Because a species willing to imagine gods is a species willing to become them." Drak frowned. "Sir, are you saying these stories pose a threat?" I'm saying, Threx replied, that the Terrans did not create myths out of ignorance. They created them because they needed to believe. And belief, true belief, is the most dangerous weapon in any war. Silence again, but it was a different silence. Heavy, charged. Threx stood, casting a long shadow across the table. Mock them if you must. Laugh at their legends. But remember this, behind every story, there is a truth, however buried. Dismiss them, and you may find yourself on the wrong side of one. With that, he turned and walked out. The door hissed shut behind him. The lieutenants remained still, the holographic myths flickering in the dim room. Drock reached out slowly and closed the projection of Zeus. Well, Krask muttered, that wasn't in the combat manual. No one laughed this time. Rain slashed through the canopy like falling blades, the jungle alive with 1,000 unseen things. General Threx had long stopped trying to make sense of Earth's weather patterns. The ship's descent had gone poorly. Interference they hadn't accounted for, electromagnetic anomalies bursting through their sensors like ghosts in a machine. His dropship had crashed miles off course, deep in the Amazon basin, alone. His comlink was dead. No signals in or out. His armor, though battered, still functioned on limited reserves. It emitted a low hum as it filtered toxins from the wet air and powered his remaining vision module. His only company was the unrelenting shriek of birds and the soft thrum of something else, something just beyond understanding. At first, Threx thought the forest was merely foreign. Then he realized it was ancient, not just in age, but in feeling. It watched him. He trudged through twisted roots and strange, bioluminescent fungi. His mission had been simple: observe Terran infrastructure in South America and identify potential resistance points. Earth, still deemed a Category 4 threat, was low priority. This reconnaissance was more academic than strategic. But nothing about this planet had gone according to plan. By the third night, hunger gnawed at him. The armor could only sustain so long. He drank filtered water from nearby streams, his mind sharpening on the edge of desperation. That was when he saw them, humans. Small, weathered, barefoot, and unarmed. They found him collapsed at the foot of a moss-draped tree. He awoke inside a hut of woven reeds and smoke. The village was isolated, untouched by modernity. They should have run from him, an armored giant with glowing eyes and foreign growl. Instead, they treated him with reverence. The elder, an ancient man wrapped in symbols of ochre and charcoal, knelt before Threx and uttered a name, Yache. Threx did not understand the word at first. Only later would he learn it meant, one who brings knowledge. They believed he had returned. He played along, at first, because survival required it. He let them touch his armor, marvel at the lights. They fed him, taught him their words, sang songs that wrapped around his mind like vapor. But the jungle never softened. It loomed. And always, at the edge of the night, something moved. One evening, the elder brought him a stone, carved with spirals and a figure with wings. He watches, the elder whispered. He remembers. Threx dismissed it. Cultural delusions, mythic archetypes clinging to pre-technological minds. But the elder only smiled and pointed skyward. He will test you, as he tested the last one. Threx did not sleep that night. He first saw the figure during a hunt. The villagers had taken him to the river's edge, where they harvested roots and watched for piranha. Threx wandered upstream, his instincts pricking. There, across the water, stood a man. Tall, barefoot, skin like polished obsidian, draped in cloth that shimmered faintly in the dim light. His eyes burned gold, not a reflection, not an illusion. Real. Threx raised his weapon, but the man lifted a hand, and the rifle shut down. Power drained, displays flickered. Threx's system screamed of internal overload. The figure smiled faintly and vanished into the trees. It was not possible, but it had happened. He confronted the elder, demanded answers. The old man said only, "You have seen the Guardian. He is older than your stars." A week passed in watchful silence. No more visions, just the creeping dread that something was watching. Then came the storm, a tempest unlike anything in Threx's memory. Lightning cracked the sky into fractals. Trees snapped like twigs. Animals scattered. The villagers gathered in ritual silence, drawing sigils in the dirt. In the center, Threx stood alone, armor shielding him from the chaos. And then the figure returned. Not from the forest, but from the storm itself, descended on a bolt of blue-white fury. He hovered, just slightly, robes fluttering without wind. His face was human, yet timeless. No age could cling to it. He looked at Threx not with hatred, but curiosity. "You do not belong," he said in a voice that was not sound but thunder. Threx activated every system, every weapon, every shield. Nothing responded. His suit was inert. "What are you?" he demanded. The being stepped closer. "Once, we were many. Now, I am one. You call us myths. Gods. But we are echoes of civilizations that outgrew your logic. You're a construct," Threx spat. "A remnant of ancient tech, mistaken for divinity." The being tilted his head. "Perhaps. But even a remnant can reshape the future." He raised a hand, and Threx felt his mind unravel. Memories folding inward, fears surfacing, a lifetime of war rendered meaningless in the face of something that refused to be quantified. He fell to his knees. "You will return," the being said. "And when you do, speak not of conquest, but caution. Your kind plays at dominion without understanding the board." The storm ceased instantly. The being vanished. Threx collapsed into the mud, armor dead, spirit shattered. They found him days later, his own people, tracking the wreckage beacon. They extracted him, filed a report. The official record stated, electromagnetic hallucination due to atmospheric exposure. No credible threat detected. He did not argue. No one asked for more. No one wanted the truth. Back aboard the command vessel, among steel and silence, Threx carried the memory like a scar that would never heal. He spent years studying the myths he once mocked, looking not for worship, but patterns, connections, warnings. And now, decades later, watching young soldiers laugh at tales of gods and monsters, he understood the irony. They believed themselves above stories. He had lived one. And as he watched them joke and jeer, he realized the true danger was not the humans' belief in myths. It was the aliens' refusal to believe at all. Threx sat alone in his quarters that night. The lights dimmed, the noise of the ship muffled by distance. In his palm, he held a piece of carved stone, spirals and wings, etched by hands long dead. He whispered the word the elder once used, Yache. Then, slowly, he placed the stone beside his armor and stared out into the stars, knowing full well something out there was staring back. The hangar bay echoed with the rhythmic clank of boots, the whir of drones, and the cold hiss of decompressing airlocks. Warships loomed above, skeletal giants nestled in mechanical cradles. Maintenance crews buzzed like insects around their limbs, but it was not the machinery that drew attention that day. It was the arrival of Captain Lisa Run. She descended from her transport in full gear, sleek obsidian armor lined with neuroreactive mesh, visor dimmed to obscure her features. Her reputation had preceded her. She wasn't a legend. Legends were myths. She was something else. Proof that the impossible could be forced into submission by sheer will. Her mission was clear. After General Threx's unauthorized diversion and subsequent silence regarding Earth's jungle anomalies, Dominion Command had grown uneasy. Their most trusted tactician, their hardened icon of war, had returned subdued. No formal reprimand had been issued, but something in Threx had changed. His reports had become philosophical, hesitant, traits the Dominion found unsettling in a war leader. Lisa had been assigned to evaluate his status discreetly, but more than that, to confirm or dismiss the claims he'd buried deep in encrypted files about sentient phenomena, non-terrestrial intelligences, and Terran myths materializing with alarming precision. She was skeptical. It wasn't in her nature to entertain fantasy. She was born on a mining moon where machines broke before myths ever mattered. Her parents died in the same collapse that forged her. The Dominion offered her structure, rank, and certainty in a universe that had none. She didn't believe in gods. She believed in outcomes. Threx greeted her without ceremony. He had requested the meeting be held in Observation Base 7, a place few visited. It looked out over the stars with a pane of transparent alloy, and the stillness there was rarely disturbed. "You asked for me," Lisa said, removing her helmet. "I don't like being kept waiting." Threx turned from the viewport slowly. His face was tired, but not weak. Time hadn't broken him. It had deepened him. He nodded toward the bench opposite his own. "I need to show you something," he said. "But first, I need to know what you believe." Lisa narrowed her eyes. I believe you've kept a dozen research files locked behind level theta encryption, and that you've ordered patrols to avoid the Sol system without explanation. He ignored her sharpness. Belief, he repeated. Not protocol. Not data. What do you believe in? She didn't answer immediately. I believe in the chain of command. That's not an answer. It's the only one I need. Threx reached into a compartment beneath the bench and pulled out a sphere, a small object made of mineral composite, etched with symbols that pulsed faintly in the dim light. It's not Dominion tech, he said, but it responds to biometric presence. Mine. And now, apparently, yours. He held it out. Cautiously, Lisa took it. The moment her skin touched the surface, the sphere bloomed with light, projecting a three-dimensional map into the air, vast networks of ley lines, gravitational nodes, and constructs invisible to conventional sensors. What is this? Not what. Where? Threx said. Earth. Not as we perceive it through orbital telemetry, but as it exists on another level. One we've ignored. Dimensional modeling? She asked, skeptical. Try ancestral memory, he countered. Or archetypal topology. The humans have words for it. Most of them dismissed. But their myths are cartographic records. They map influence, not land. She stared at the projection. This is data? It's resonance. Patterns. Recurring across cultures, epochs. Prometheus. Quetzalcoatl. Odin. Same figure, different name. Same story. Sacrifice. Return. Transformation. Lisa frowned. We don't base strategy on metaphor. Don't we? Threx's voice was low now. Every military doctrine is based on myth. The myth of control, of superiority, of the enemy's inferiority. Myths shape perception. Perception shapes action. She leaned back, watching him. You think Earth's myths are real. I think, he said carefully, they were never fiction. The silence between them was absolute. Threx stood, crossing to the window. You were sent to evaluate my fitness. I won't fight that, but I will tell you the truth. She waited. When I was in the jungle, something found me. It spoke without words. It showed me what it was, not by force, but memory. It wasn't human, and it wasn't alone. It was part of something larger. And older. Lisa almost laughed, but didn't. You're describing a sentient archetype. I'm describing a defense system masquerading as mythology. Earth is protected, not by weapons, by belief. Their minds are tuned to it. We've underestimated them because they fight poorly, but they believe with a strength we can't match. Lisa paced, agitation rising. And what does this mean tactically? That we turn back? We abandon the campaign. Threx looked at her, eyes hollow and fierce. It means if we don't understand what they are, we'll lose without understanding why. She set the sphere down and stood close to him. Belief doesn't win wars. Logistics do. Strategy does. Belief creates wars, he corrected, and it ends them. There was a beat of tension between them, sharp and unspoken. Then the intercom flared. Commander Run, came the voice of her adjutant. We've intercepted a distress call from a ground recon unit. South American sector. The same grid General Threx marked for quarantine. Lisa snapped her helmet back on. Prep a team. I want boots down in 20. She looked at Threx as she turned to leave. You wanted me to see something? She said. Fine. Let's see it together. Threx did not smile, but something in his shoulders eased. As the hangar bay roared back to life and the dropships began to descend, the sphere she left behind flickered with renewed light. Outside, far beyond the hull, in the orbit of a planet full of forgotten gods and remembered dreams, the stars seemed to shift slightly. As if watching, rain drummed across the canopy in uneven rhythms, muffling the whir of descent thrusters as Captain Lisa Wren's dropship sliced through layers of fog. The jungle below unfolded like a living organism, dense, ancient, and unapologetically alien. Even from altitude, Lisa felt it, an oppressive weight, intangible yet present, like breath on the back of her neck. Beside her, Threx sat silent in restraint gear, his armor sealed but non-combative. It was her condition. He wouldn't be trusted with command until her field report cleared him. He had accepted it without argument, which disturbed her more than any protest would have. His silence wasn't defeat. It was preparation. The recon unit's beacon pulsed faintly across the holomap. No response to hails. No biometric readings. Just a ghost signal near coordinates Threx had marked as restricted. There was no infrastructure nearby, no cities, no military value. On paper, it was irrelevant terrain. But the Dominion had never mapped belief systems. Lisa and her strike team landed in a clearing ringed by thick vines and stone totems half swallowed by moss. The team fanned out with professional precision. 5 soldiers, 1 scout drone, full comms. Protocol dictated caution. Lisa felt tension coil inside her like a loaded spring. As they pushed through undergrowth, Threx moved with uncanny ease for someone supposedly under restriction. He didn't need to lead. The jungle opened for him. Vines slid aside. Roots never caught his boots. It was as if the terrain remembered him. That's what bothered her most. The first body was found an hour in. Lisa knelt beside it. Private Tvar, charred from the inside out. No wounds. No struggle. Just collapsed mid-step, eyes wide in awe or terror. The medic scanned him twice, then looked to her with a confused shake of the head. Neural overload, he muttered. No sign of trauma. His brain just shut down. Threx didn't flinch. He saw something. We all see things, Lisa replied. We're trained not to die from them. He wasn't trained for this. As the team moved deeper, the jungle changed subtly. Light filtered through the canopy in unnatural colors. The trees grew taller, impossibly tall, with trunks etched in spiral patterns. Symbols older than any known civilization glowed faintly in the bark. The scout drone began transmitting distorted feeds, images flickering between the real and the surreal. A temple that wasn't there. A figure wrapped in feathers. Echoes of music with no source. One of the soldiers, Saren, tore off her helmet and dropped to her knees. They're inside my head, she gasped. Singing. They're singing. Lisa yanked her back, slapping an override on her helmet's neural feed. The soldier collapsed into unconsciousness, twitching gently. Lisa stared down at her, jaw clenched. This wasn't an anomaly. It was deliberate. Why didn't you tell them? She snapped at Threx. Why didn't you tell me it was this bad? You wouldn't have believed me. You didn't try. Threx pointed forward. We're close. They emerged into a clearing dominated by a stepped pyramid, black stone and overgrown but intact. It pulsed, breathed, with a rhythm that matched no natural cadence. Lisa's HUD struggled to frame it, lines of data blurring with static and corrupted input. She removed her helmet. At the summit stood a figure, the same one Threx had described. Ageless, golden-eyed, cloaked in windless cloth. Lisa raised her rifle instinctively, though it felt ridiculous, like aiming at a dream. The figure looked at her, and for a moment, she saw her childhood reflected in his gaze. The collapse. Her parents. The weight she carried since. I did not come to be worshipped, the being said, voice both inside her and around her. Nor to rule. But you have come too far without listening. Lisa lowered her weapon, but kept her posture rigid. What are you? A memory, it answered. And a warning. We don't believe in ghosts. That is why they remain. Threx stepped forward, unarmed. You showed me what lies beneath the stories. She needs to see it, too. The being turned to Lisa. What you call myth is a containment field. Not of matter. Of meaning. Your kind does not understand the cost of desecration. We don't desecrate, she said. We conquer. And when you have conquered all, what will you do with your loneliness? She couldn't respond. It struck too close. The figure raised a hand. Around them, the jungle shimmered, transformed. Not physically, but perceptually. In a flash, Lisa saw layers of history peeling back. Rituals danced under starlit skies. Languages spoken to the earth. Beings of light walking among men not as rulers, but teachers. She saw humanity kneeling not in fear, but in awe. Connection, not control. And then she saw what happened when they were hunted. When belief was extinguished. When memory became threat. Her knees buckled. It wasn't guilt. It was recognition. She had been trained to overwrite memory with structure. Discipline over doubt. But this place rejected that paradigm. This wasn't about war. It was about forgetting. And they were the agents of forgetting. The vision faded. The figure remained. You've seen it, Threx said quietly. Now you know why I sealed the report. Lisa rose slowly. The air around her felt heavier now, or perhaps more honest. I can't write this, she said. There's no language for what this is. You don't need to write it, the being said. You need to remember it. And carry that memory where your reports cannot go. The rest of the team stood dazed, scattered among the ruins. No one moved. No one spoke. Eventually, Lisa turned to Threx. We extract. We return. And this sector is no longer classified for conquest. It's protected. On whose authority, he asked. Mine. As they made their way back through the jungle, the trees once again parted for them. The light was softer now. The silence no longer threatened. And somewhere, high above the clouds, the Dominion would wait for a report that would never fully come. Only the memory would remain. And perhaps that would be enough.